It's time for
On the Victory Homefront
with Jamie.
It's May 5th, 1942. An American shopper walks into a grocery store with money in one hand and something new in the other, a ration book. And for the first time, if they want to buy sugar, they're going to need both. Hello to all the Rosies and Homefront Joes, and welcome back to another episode of On the Victory Homefront. Now, beginning just yesterday, Americans had begun standing in line at schools across the country where they were registering for War Ration Book 1. And now today, in 1942, that system would become real because today, May 5th, rationing begins. Now, from the outside, things probably looks different, but inside, things have begun to change. Customers don't just approach the counter with money anymore to purchase sugar, which is something that has not even been available for purchase for the past week. Nope, now they have to approach with money and their ration book. And this book will determine what they're going to get. Now, before we dive into this episode, be sure to check out this week's episode of the Donut Dollies podcast, where yours truly is the guest speaker. On this episode, I talk about the moments in my life that really transformed and shaped me into what you see and hear today and why I do what I do. So be sure to go over to their podcast, which I know is on Spotify, and give their episode a little love. And that would be wonderful. Thanks. Okay, so let's get back to Book 1. So on the first day of the ration system, only one stamp from your Book 1 ration book is valid, and that would be stamp number 1. And it is worth 1 pound of sugar, and it is valid from May 5th through May 16th. But that one stamp is only the beginning because War Ration Book 1 contains a total of 28 sugar stamps, and they are numbered. They're numbered stamp 1 through stamp number 28. And though they may look the same in the ration book, they kind of aren't. And I'm going to explain that. So, something about your ration book is that the stamps are not usable all at once. They have specific days to when those stamps are to be used. So stamp 1 is from May 5th through May 16th. Until then, stamp 2 and all the other stamps, they mean nothing. They are not usable. You must use them when they are valid. And if you try to use them too early, you can't. This book is designed to give you access over time, not all at once. So as you can see, I have a Book 1 ration book in my hand, and obviously it's old and obviously it's been used. I'm going to show you inside. So this is what it would look like inside. I know my lighting is not the best, and you can see that she had 4 stamps left that were not used. Stamp 19, 20, 22, and 23. And those stamps would have had a specific time when they were to be used. And each one of these stamps is for one person, and there are no substitutions. There's no exceptions. Now, the guidelines set by the OPA, which is the Office of Price Administration, they state that the stamp must still be attached when you arrive to the store. It cannot be torn out ahead of time, and it must be removed either in front of the clerk or by the clerk. And if it's already missing, it can be refused. And so that's why these books would go with you. That's why there were covers to help protect your book. This needed to last you for quite some time. And if you could touch the ration book that I have in my hand, it is very fragile. It has been very used. And if you were to go without your stamp in the book, it can be refused. And this was set in line to prevent fraud and pre-use of the stamps. So the act of removing the stamp was actually part of the system, and the clerk would check everything. He would check the stamp number, the timing, even the condition of the book, right? And if something didn't feel right, the sale wouldn't happen. Now, that's not to say that it was enforced perfectly in every location. In the first day of rollouts, there were most certainly confused clerks, and as the days progressed, there could be inconsistent enforcement and occasional leniency, especially in communities where everybody knew everybody else. Now, I really want to get into the detail of how your ration book would work. Now, we did talk a little bit of it, but I did manage to come across an article, and this article was published in Wisconsin in 1942, and it goes into quite some detail. So the main text, which is on the right, it's the right column, this is what it states. It's going to be a sweet war from now on. With the Japs on the losing end, Uncle Sam is giving all of us a chance to roll up our sleeves and make quick work of it. You may not be able to put a uniform on, but the war ration book that's in your possession is a certificate that you're in Uncle Sam's army doing the job that's assigned to you. It's a mighty important job. The success of rationing depends upon that vast army made up of people like you. Rationing was designed to protect you, to see that you get your share. Rationing is a necessary wartime measure. It curbs hoarding. As in the case of sugar, it permits everyone to get his full share. Be glad this country gives everyone this chance to help win the war. Rationing does not deprive you of the things you need, but rather assures an adequate supply for everyone. Without rationing, others would stock up on supplies for many months to come. Merchants would lose supplies too quickly, prices rise, inflation starts. Your war ration book helps protect you against all this. You and your neighbors get an equal share. Carefully read the rules at the left. It will only take a few minutes to become familiar with how it works. Take good care of your war ration book. Don't lose it. Present it to the local merchants whenever you buy sugar. They have adequate supplies on hand for everyone. All right. How to use your war ration book. United States of America, War Ration, Book 1. Read these ration rules. Important. Before the stamps of the war ration book may be used, the person for whom it was issued must sign it as indicated in the book. The name of a person under 18 years of age may be signed either by such person or by his father, mother, or guardian. For future reference, make and keep a record of the serial number of your book and the number of your issuing ration board as indicated in your book. Your first war ration book has been issued to you originally containing 28 war ration stamps. Other books may be issued at a later date. Following instructions apply to your first book and will apply to any later books, unless otherwise ordered by the Office of Price Administration. You should preserve war ration books with the greatest possible care. Number 1. From time to time, the Office of Price Administration may issue orders rationing certain products. After the date indicated by such orders, the products can be purchased only by use of war ration books containing valid war ration stamps. 2. The orders of the Office of Price Administration will designate the stamps to be used for the purchase of a particular ration product, the period during which each stamp may be used, and the amounts which may be bought with each stamp. 3. Stamps become valid for use only when and is directed by the orders of the Office of Price Administration. 4. Unless otherwise announced, the ration week is from Saturday midnight to the following Saturday midnight. 5. War ration stamps may be used in any retail store in the United States. 6. War ration stamps may be used only by or for the person named and described in the war ration book. 7. Every person must see that his war ration book is kept in a safe place and properly used. Parents are responsible for the safekeeping and use of their children's war ration books. 8. When you buy any ration product, the proper stamp must be detached in the presence of the storekeeper, his employee, or the person making delivery in his behalf. If a stamp is torn out of the war ration book in any other way than above indicated, it becomes void. If it is partially torn or mutilated and more than one half of it remains in the book, it is valid. Otherwise, it becomes void. 9. If your war ration book is lost, destroyed, stolen, or mutilated, you should report that fact to the local ration board. 10. If you enter a hospital or other institution and expect to be there for more than 60 days, you must turn your war ration book over to the person in charge. It will be returned to you upon your request when you leave. 11. When a person dies, his war ration book must be returned to the local ration board in accordance with the regulations. 12. If you have any complaints, questions, or difficulties regarding your war ration book, consult your local ration board. So, in the early weeks, the system is simple and it's pretty straightforward, right? Stamp number 1, it actually is valid May 5th through May 16th, and you would get 1 pound of sugar. Stamp 2, May 17th through May 30th, also 1 pound of sugar. May 31st through June 13th would be stamp number 3, 1 pound of sugar. Stamp number 4, June 14th through June 27th is, you got it, 1 pound of sugar. And that is 1 pound per person. So 1 pound every 2 weeks. And it's a fixed rhythm that replaces open buying. Now, after those first 4 stamps, the system begins to change. Stamps start covering longer periods, and some become worth more than 1 pound. The government adjusts the system because it is based on supply, demand, and the wartime conditions. So the rules don't stay frozen, they evolve. And that creates kind of a new problem for the public, because how do you know what your stamp actually gives you and when it's valid for. Because the stamp itself, it doesn't explain anything. It's a number. So what Americans had to do is they had to stay informed. They had to stay on top of this. And the Office of Price Administration, the OPA, would set the rules. And they would announce the rules as things evolved. And they would announce them through newspapers, through radio, and through notices in the stores themselves. So to fully understand your ration point worth that day or week, you really had to pay attention. You had to read the newspapers, you had to listen to the radio, and you had to watch for announcements. Now, these 28 stamps, obviously, we already explained it. You couldn't use them all at once. They were not meant for 1 week's worth of sugar. They were not meant to even get you all the sugar you wanted in a month. No, they were specifically stretched across time because this one book was meant to take you from spring of 1942 into the following year. And used correctly, they provided that half a pound of sugar per person per week. Every person would have their own book. Every person has their own stamps. So if a family of 4 went into the store and they were just going to make this one trip in this 2-week frame for stamp 1, they would bring all 4 books with them to get their 4 pounds of sugar. And that each stamp in here would be torn out of the book by the clerk as they purchased their sugar. Now, you may be thinking, half a pound of sugar per week? That doesn't sound too hard. Well, we're going to put that in perspective because obviously how our country ate in 1942 is a lot different than how we eat now in 2026. So we're going to go by the numbers and you're going to see how much of a change is actually made for the American family in 1942. The average person in 1942 used or consumed about 100 pounds a year. So 100 pounds of sugar per year per person. That equals to 1.9 pounds per week. So now compare that to getting half a pound per week. You are getting a quarter amount of sugar than you would have generally used back then. So that gives you more of a perspective. And that is a 75% reduction in the amount of sugar that you had to use to what you would normally be using at that time in your household. Because households back then were an ingredient household, something we're going to get into in a future episode here on the Victory Homefront. So most food was prepared at home from raw ingredients. Now, they did have packaged ready-made foods back then. They did exist, but they were far less dominant. And sugar was a core ingredient back then. It was not just a sweetener. And it was used for baking your breads, your cakes, your pies, your cookies. It was used in your coffee daily. It was also used for preserving fruit, which is critical, which we are going to get into more with Victory Gardens in canning. It's also for making syrups and desserts and sauces. So sugar wasn't occasional like it is now. It was an essential in the kitchen. To put this in another perspective, not only was sugar a staple in the kitchens back then in 1942, but at this time, while we were in war, households were expected to preserve food at home, and the government actively encouraged Victory Gardens and home canning. But sugar is essential for preserving fruit like jams and jellies and canned fruit. And without sugar, your fruit is going to spoil quickly and you'll lose food for the winter. So sugar wasn't just for taste back then. It was tied to food security for the war. So in addition to already the average American using about 1.9 pounds of sugar each week for their food, let's throw in that now you're going to be canning and you're going to be preserving food that you grow for the war, but you only get 25% of the sugar you would normally have used without canning. So that gives you an idea and how strict this rationing was in 1942 for sugar. And why was there a sugar shortage? Well, there was a loss of Philippine sugar supply due to Japanese occupation in World War II. And so shipping was diverted to the war effort, the little sugar that we were able to get. And then there was transportation constraints. It did limit distribution efficiently, and it encouraged local production and preservation, something you're going to need sugar for. So today, even though people still consume sugar heavily, it is through processed foods, it's through our sodas, our pre-made desserts. And so we don't see the use of sugar moving out of our house like they would have done in 1942. So a half a pound a week might not sound like much of a restriction today, but before the war, when Americans were using nearly 2 pounds of sugar a week per person, that totally changed the way that the household functioned. So that half pound a week of sugar, it's not generous. It's a major reduction. And households depended on sugar for daily cooking and preservation. So on May 5th, Americans learned something new, not just how to buy sugar, but how to follow a system to where the stamps had to stay in the book, the stamp had to be removed in front of the clerk, and the stamp had to be the right one used at the right time. And on that first day, the rule was simple. Stamp number 1. I want to thank you all for joining me on this episode of On the Victory Homefront as we follow the nation in spring of 1942 as the ration system came into play. I have a lot of future exciting and informative episodes on the horizon, including diary entries as I bring the World War II homefront lifestyle into my everyday life. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and share with your family and friends. And until next time, my friends, remember, victory is in the everyday. I'll see you next time on the Victory Homefront.